What's up, folks? Sean the Average Angler coming at you with another great video. Today we're going to touch on some little bit more advanced stuff. I'm going to help you guys catch more fish, when to pick one bait over another. We're going to focus in one area today. One that we recently covered in a couple of the last videos. If you like this kind of content, it's helping you out, hit that subscribe button down below. Join the community, become eligible for the giveaway we'll have coming up at 5,000 subscribers, which is a little ways off, but hey, who knows, we may go on a boom, we might hit it tomorrow. Optimism, it's one of my strong points, really. We are going to talk about a couple of baits, well, technically, a couple techniques, okay? And really, I differentiate these. So we're gonna talk about the jig and flipping a plastic. Okay, this is brought up by a recent comment on one of my videos about a certain jig would produce better in the Thule's where I'm fishing. I want to give you a little backstory. Now, I've mentioned before D. Thomas, when I got into bass fishing, it was kind of my bass fishing hero. He's local. He was a jig fisherman. Kind of the grandfather of flipping is what he's known for, if you will. Okay, and I really like the flipping technique. We have a lot of fisheries around here that have heavy cover, good stuff for flipping. And in the beginning, all I did was flip and pitch a jig to everything. What I've learned over the past 40 years, to be quite honest, is the jig is not the best bait for everything. Jig is a great bait when used in the right application. Part of this is going to come down to efficiency. Part of it's going to come down to what we can flip as far as different baits for cover. So, my question, what do you think the fish think this is? Now, put a craw trailer on it, okay? What do you think the fish think this is when it's in the water? And what do you think the fish think this is in the water? Because to me, my answer is going to be, I don't really care as long as they eat it. But the fact of the matter is, whether I'm fishing a jig or I'm flipping, that happens to be a flapping hog on that rod. I'm prepping for the weekend, okay? That's a bait I rigged. I really think they think it's one of two things, or maybe they don't think at all and they just eat things that resemble something that looks somewhat familiar. So it's going to bring us back to either they think it's a crawdad or they could think it's a bluegill. Now, that colored green pumpkin could go either way. This is a black, blue, and purple jig. Really, that could go either way also, right? If you've seen bluegill that are really, really dark, kind of match it. All right, so let's get into what I tend to pick where. And this is going to get the majority of my flipping and pitching duties. Not necessarily the flapping hog, because I'm kind of moody about the baits I pick. It's just sometimes I want to throw this, sometimes I want to throw that. I've got a ton of them I throw. I throw the Rage Bug a lot. If you prefer the Swamp Monster from Fat Packs, same bait. Fat Packs one's going to have a little more movement, it's a little more buoyant. The Brush Hog, the Game Hog, there's the D-Bomb. I've got them all. And to be quite honest with you, I throw them all. I'm going to use this pretty much anytime I'm dealing with one of two things. Number one is Thule's. Okay, we have a lot of Thule's here in Northern California, the Delta. Most of my local lakes have some here or there, wherever, maybe not a ton of them. But as you saw last week on the video, I fish them. Clear Lake's loaded with stuff. Loaded. Trees, brush, grass, you name it. Weeds, pads, there's all kinds of different stuff. I'm going to go with some sort of plastic flipping bait. Reason being, it just goes through the stuff better, guys. Okay, I don't care what it is. And we're going to get to the one application where I'm going to side with the jig over this. As for everything else that I just mentioned, this has the profile, it has the bulk, it's still a single hook, and it goes through stuff better. Just being honest. And I am an avid jig fisherman. Jig's not the answer to everything. Okay, so when am I going to choose the jig? There she is. That's the one I caught the fish on this last weekend. And to be quite honest with you, I think it looks a little funky because the trailer's sticking so far out the back. But it's probably, the whole profile is probably a 5-inch crawdad. And it matches. Typically, I would shorten that up a little bit, but yeah, go watch the video. You'll find out why I didn't. The jig, I really like for wood. There's nothing quite like a jig bouncing through branches as it's falling. It has a huge calling power to the fish. It falls through, gets through branches, causes a lot of commotion, has the action, and it has a great hookup ratio, as does the other bait. I just feel like there's a little more presence with a jig going through wood than a soft plastic. Not saying the soft plastic won't outfish it at times, because it certainly will. And the other bait I like to throw in there for soft plastic is going to be like a brush hog type bait. But we're talking about separating the two. Grass, tules, these kinds of other stick-ups, I'm going to go with the soft plastic. I really like the jig when there's wood involved. It's just experience. It's just something I've found to be more successful when dealing with wood. That jig is my preferred method. Okay, that's for me. It's a personal opinion. It's a personal choice. I like the jig for those applications, and I like the plastics for the other ones. Now, if you're flipping around docks into kind of open water or whatever, you can pick the bait based on how you want it to fall. That plastic tends to fall more straight down, providing you're giving it slack line. The jig is going to glide a little bit one way or another, whether it's towards you, off to the side, depending on your cast and that kind of stuff. The jig's going to glide a little bit more. It's just the profile with the trailer, the head, all that kind of stuff is going to make it move a little bit. It's not going to fall straight down unless you're using a really heavy jig. It's just, I guess, call it physics. I don't know. Now, the other place I really like the jig, and I think everybody knows this, is going to be the good old football jig. And here happens to be a nice little football jig. Again, black, blue, and some purple in there, much like that one. Nothing quite like a football jig on rock piles, and that's, or just hard bottom. It's really my staple as we get into fall. And I've mentioned we don't have a ton of wood. Clear Lake's a little different now because the low water years, the trees grew out further, so we got a lot of brush, trees and stuff in the water. Those, I really tend to love to throw a compact jig. Tules and grass are a different monster. I'm looking for things that are going to slither through and into it much easier. And the bulk of the jig, basically you have the head, you have the jig, then you have a trailer hanging off of it. It doesn't really bring to mind that it's going to slither through this stuff, right? It's going to hit stuff, it's going to catch, eventually it's going to get knocked down, probably short of where I want it, which in my younger years and beginning years, I really didn't pick up on this right away. So, like any other bait that we choose at any other time, efficiency should be a consideration, much like fishing a Chapo or a Whopper Plopper compared to a buzzbait. They're similar baits, but the efficiency, if you're fishing them in grass, is going to go to the buzz bait. If you're fishing it in open water, the Choppa or Whopper Plopper might be a better choice. Okay, much the same way with a jig versus a plastic flipping into heavy cover, depending on what it is. Wood can be considered heavy cover, and especially if it's brush. But I like the jig in wood, and I like the plastic in the rest of it. Okay, it's just my personal experience. It's not a golden rule, but I think if you watch a lot of professionals and other people, I think you're going to notice the same thing. Will they say it? I don't know. It's just about efficiency. Okay, that jig tends to grab more stuff when you're pulling it up out of grass. It tends to grab on the tules. As you're pulling it through, it'll get knocked sideways. Next thing you know, you're hooked onto a tule. The plastic just seems to be the better choice for that application. The jig tends to be the better choice around wood or brush. This is why we have, or at least I do, have so many rods, multiple rigs rigged up on them, because we got to pick the right one for the application. I hope this helps. I'm trying to teach you guys some things that I've learned over a lot of years that have helped me be more efficient. And we only have so much time on the water, so efficiency is a big deal, and it will help us have more time to make efficient casts to catch more fish. All right, Sean the Average Angler, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.